Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're continuing our series of set reviews for Uprising, this time looking at FAI and the Draconic Ninja cards. Before we get into that, I want to shout out our sponsor, Whooped Wizard. You can use the affiliate link in the description below to support the channel and get 5% off all box breaks. They've got great pricing on stuff like classic battles, bundles with those classic battles, and I'm sure they'll have great pricing on Uprising as well. You can also support the channel through Patreon. The second and third tier, Blueberry and everything, come with kind of an extra, almost podcast style video. After every video I upload to the YouTube channel, I will have a secondary video that's more laid back, chill, a bit longer, and just talking about what I went over in that video. Awesome, let's hop into it here. So we have 5 levels of reviews, of star reviews. We have meta defining, which is 5 stars, core, which is 4, playable at 3, niche at 2, and unplayable at 1. Basically, it means meta defining is if it makes other decks have to play around it. Core means it should always be in the deck. Playable means it will sometimes be in the deck. It's pretty good, but doesn't always need to be in there. Niche means it's not that great, but you might be able to find a niche for it in the deck sometimes. And unplayable means it should never be in the deck. Now our hero here is the Draconic Ninja FAI. He has 4 intellect and 40 health. You start the game with a Phoenix Flame in your graveyard, so kind of like Dash. It's a start of game effect. You will take a Phoenix Flame out of your 80 cards and put it in your graveyard. It has to be in your 80 card deck. You can't just make one come out of nowhere. So it'll come out of your 80 total cards and go into your graveyard. Once per turn at instant speed, you can pay 3 resources to return a Phoenix Flame from your graveyard to your hand, but it costs 1 less for each Draconic Chain Link. So if you have 3 Draconic Chain Links, it costs 0. I think FAI will be one of the better aggro decks in the format, so I'm going to give him 4 stars. I don't think he'll be the best aggro deck, but I definitely think decks will have to respect him. Certainly respect him more than they've respected other ninjas in the past. Now, what is that Phoenix Flame token we were talking about? It is this card. It is a 0-cost red card. It attacks for 0 and doesn't block, but it has Go Again, and if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it has +1 attack. That counts itself as a Chain Link, so you only have to have 1 previous Draconic Chain Link. This will be the second one, and it'll gain +1. This card's not very strong, obviously, by itself, but we have a lot of cards that care about how many Phoenix Flames we have on the Chain Link, and we have a lot of cards that find it for free, which means it's kind of a free 1 damage for every Phoenix Flame. We also have ways to pump it, so this card can end up being really powerful. Our weapon is Searing Ember Blade. It costs 2 resources to attack for 3. If you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it has Go Again. So similar to Phoenix Flame, it counts itself. It's a decent weapon. It's a little expensive. I kind of wish it only costs 1 to attack with, but I still think we'll play it because we have a lot of cards that care about how many Draconic Chain Links we control. And because of that, the other ninja weapons aren't Draconic and don't really help us as much, but this being a Draconic will help our Chain Links. So I think we'll play it anyways. I'll give it 4 stars. Not because I think it's incredibly powerful, but because I think it will be, once again, core to the deck. I think it'll be in every FAI deck. We've got our common arms here. These are called Heat Wave. They don't block, but they have Quell 1. I think we went over Quell last time, but basically you pay 1 to prevent a damage, then it's destroyed at the end phase. You can prevent 1 damage for every source. At instant speed, you can destroy it, and Phoenix Flames you control gain +1 until end of turn. I'll give it 2 stars. I don't think it's going to be our arms of choice. There's much better options, like the new Legendary Ninja arms or Stubby Hammers. Our first Majestic is called Phoenix Form. It's a red 0-cost. It blocks for 3 and attacks for 3. This is probably our strongest payoff for Phoenix Flames in the deck. If you control 1 or more Phoenix Flames, it has Go Again. If you control 2 or more, it has +2. And if you control 3 or more, it has when this hits a hero, you draw 3 cards. So with 3 Phoenix Flames out, this is a 0 for 5 with Go Again and an on-hit that draws 3, which is really insane. This is our biggest payoff for sure. It's going to be core to FAI winning and closing out games. And because of that, I'm going to give it 5 stars. Your opponents are going to have to be able to stop Phoenix Flame attacks, otherwise they will just get ran over with damage. Our other really strong Majestic is called Spreading Flames. It's a 1-cost red that blocks for 2 and attacks for 3. It has innate Go Again, and it says Draconic attacks you control have +1 while their base power is less than the number of chain links you control. So pretty regularly this is going to buff almost all your attacks. It'll almost always buff your Phoenix Flames at least. And it can kind of be like a second Stubby Hammers for us. It just does a lot here, and it's gonna really just make huge turns for you, right? It can make you get +1, +2, +3. I mean, if you buff 3 cards with this, it's a 1 for 6. So very strong card. I'm also gonna give this 5 stars. It's pretty core to FAI's combo turns. And then our last Draconic Ninja Majestic is Combustion Point. It is a 1-cost red that blocks for 3. It's a attack reaction, Draconic Ninja attack reaction. It gives a Draconic or Ninja attack action card +1, and then you may banish a non-equipment defending card with defense less than the number of Draconic chain links you control. So it's a little similar to Route. It's a little better than Route because it doesn't put it back in their hand. It just banishes it permanently. And the only problem is it's a 1 resource and it only gives +1. So if they're not blocking with cards, if you're like in an aggro mirror, this isn't going to do a ton. If they're not blocking with cards if we're not trying to get anything over, it's not going to do a ton either. I think this card might be good against control decks, and we might bring in 1 or 2 there, but I don't think it's going to be that insane. I'll give it 3 stars for playable. I definitely think it's a playable card, but it's not going to be a core to our strategy at all. Pretty cool art, though, as his hand is literally shooting through the person's body. Our first rares here is the Cycle of Engulfing Flame Wave. This is a 2-cost attack with Go Again. It blocks for 2, and then it attacks for 3, 4, or 5. It says when it hits, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an attack action card with cost less than the number of Draconic chain links you control, banish it. You may play it this turn. So really solid on hit. The problem with this card is obviously the cost. 2 is a little expensive for an aggro deck, especially a red strip based aggro deck. So I'm going to give the blue and reds a 3-star for playable, just because the blue is nice because we can pitch it still. The red is a 2 for 5, so it's a decent rate. But it's kind of iffy. The cost might be too prohibitive to make this actually playable. But I still think the cards, at least the on hit is really strong, so I'm going to give it at least a playable rating for now. Probably won't play the yellow because it's kind of the worst of both worlds, right? Pitches for less than the blue and hits for less than the red. Pretty similar with a lot of decks in Flesh and Blood. They don't want to play the yellows. Our next rare is Mounting Anger. This card's a little better than the previous one because it only costs 1. It also has innate Go Again. It blocks for 2 as well, and it attacks for 2, 3, or 4. This one also has an on hit, so when it hits, you may banish an attack action card from your hand with cost less than the number of Draconic chain links you control. If you do, it gains +1, and you may play it this turn. So even if this is your first attack, you can banish a 0-cost attack because it'll have cost less than the number of chain links, which is 1. And then you can play that 0-cost card with +1. So it's kind of an extra free damage. If the red hits, it's kind of a 1 for 5 with Go Again. So really strong card. Definitely think you're always going to be playing the reds here. As you can see, maybe the blues being playable as well, just because it's a nice blue that's still presenting a decent on hit. So yeah, definitely like this card, and I think it'll see play in the deck. Our next card is Rise from the Ashes. This is one of our few non-attack actions. It's 0-cost with Go Again, and it blocks for 2. It has a Nimblism style effect, so when you play it, your next Draconic or Ninja attack action card gets +1, +2, or +3, which is pretty on rate for a 0-cost non-attack. It also has the effect, though, of returning a Phoenix Flame from your graveyard to your hand. So it's kind of even more damage, right? Because Phoenix Flames will usually at least attack for 1. So this 0-cost red one, for example, will give +3 and kind of 1 damage here, right? So it's kind of a 0 for 4. Really strong card. We're definitely going to be playing the reds. And I could see the blues definitely seeing play as well. Maybe even the yellows, but I think definitely the reds and the blues are going to see play. Getting a Phoenix Flame from our graveyard to our hand for 0 resources is just a really strong effect. Next, we've got Brand with Cinderclaw. This is one of the 4 different head jabs we have in the deck, meaning it's a 0-cost card that has Go Again and attacks for 1, 2, or 3 based on the color strip, and it blocks for 2. We've got a lot of these that this deck can play, and they're all pretty decent. This one also has the effect of turning your next attack into a Draconic card. So if you have an attack that's not Draconic, if it's just a Ninja card or a generic, and a lot of our cards care about being Draconic, this will turn it into a Draconic card, which is pretty nice, but we mostly care about the fact that it's we mostly care about the fact that it's a 0 for 3 with Go Again, so pretty solid rate on the red here. We'll probably also play the blue sometimes. We like our blues being extra 0 for 1s. It just helps us extend the chain link if we have too many blues in our hand. Once again, probably not playing the yellows. Next, we've got Cinder Skin Devotion. In our testing, this card's been a little worse than I expected. It's still solid. It's a one cost card that blocks for 3. Is the best part is that it blocks for 3. But our deck doesn't actually care about blocking that much, so it's less of an advantage than you think. It says if you control 2 or more Draconic Chainlinks, it has Go Again. Once again, that's not that hard to make happen because this only has to be the second attack for it to count as 2 Draconic Chainlinks. But if you draw a hand with too many of these kinds of effects, you're just going to get kind of screwed over because you won't be able to have a card with Go Again to start the chain off. So I think it's playable in the reds or the blues, but I'm a little down on this just because we need to have mostly cards with innate Go Again and then a few cards that gain Go Again. Next, we've got Dust Runner Outlaw. This one is just a classic leg tap. It costs 1, it attacks for 2, 3, or 4, and it has Go Again. It blocks for 2. The only difference between this and the Ninja card leg tap is that this one is Draconic Ninja. But I think this card's fine. I think it's playable. I don't think we're going to end up playing it just because it doesn't have any extra effects. But if you want more 1-for-4s with Go Again, I think you could play the red or the blue here. I definitely think the card's playable. Ninja ran leg tap, so I think it's a playable card. I just don't know how necessary it'll be. We have so many options already. Here's another card that has the same effect of gaining Go Again when you have 2 or more Draconic Chainlinks. I do think this one's a bit better because it's a 0 cost, and it attacks for 1, 2, or 3, so this is another one of our head jab style cards. But being 0 cost makes it a little bit better. I definitely like the red here. I think we'll always include the reds in our deck. And I could see us definitely playing the blues as well. Next, we've got our Draconic Surging Strike, basically. This is called Rebellious Rush. It costs 2, it blocks for 2, and it attacks for 3, 4, or 5, and it has Go Again. No other effects. I don't think this card's playable enough. Our deck really doesn't want to pay 2 resources for attacks most of the time. The only reason I think Engulfing Flame Wave is good enough because it has a really nice on-hit that basically draws you a card, but this card does not have that, so don't think this card's going to see a ton of play. Next, we've got another one of our head jabs. Like I said, we have like 4 total. This one's quite good. So Rising Resentment is a 0 cost card, blocks for 2, has Go Again, and attacks for 1, 2, or 3. When it hits, you banish an attack action from your hand with cost less than the number of Draconic Chainlinks you control. If you do, it costs 1 less to play, and you may play it this turn. So pretty good card. If you're on your second Chainlink, you can banish a 1 cost card, and it'll cost 0. So on hit can be pretty relevant sometimes, and sometimes when the on hit doesn't matter, it'll still be a nice 0 cost card. This also kind of helps us around frostbites, right? Because if we banish a 0 cost card and this is our first chain link and we have 1 frostbite, we can then play it -1 and it'll be free. So it's a really good card. Definitely going to be playing the reds and probably playing the blues as well. And then our last of our 4 head jab style cards. This one is just straight Draconic head jab. 0 cost with Go Again, blocks for 2, and attacks for 1, 2, or 3. Since it's the worst of the head jabs, I think this one has the lowest chance of seeing play. But I think we just like this style of cards so much that we might still see the red and the blues see play here. Then we've got Soaring Strike. Soaring Strike is another one of our leg tap style cards. So it's a 1 cost with Go Again. It attacks for 2, 3, or 4, and it blocks for 2. This one has a pretty decent on hit as well. When it hits, you can banish an attack action card from your hand with cost less than the number of Draconic Chainlinks. If you do, it gains Go Again and you play it this turn. So, for example, if this is your 3rd Chainlink and it hits, you could banish a 2 cost card like a Command and Conquer that doesn't have Go Again, and now it'll gain Go Again. So, pretty solid effect. I think we'll see the play of the reds basically always, and I could see play of the blues as well. I think this card's good. I think that's actually all of our Draconic Ninja cards. I went through this one pretty fast. I think the kind of lesson, though, is that almost all of the cards are fine, right? I gave a lot of 3s and 4s, as you can see here. That's like one of the only cards that I didn't give a good score. But almost all of his cards just do something. We're not going to end up playing all of them just because we don't have enough slots in our deck. But all of his cards are really solid. I think almost every one of his cards is playable. And so this review maybe didn't give you that much information outside of the fact that FAI looks like he's a pretty strong deck. I think he'll definitely be in the top 2 tiers of play. And I think we'll have to definitely respect him, respect Mask of Momentum, and respect a lot of his on-hit triggers. He's going to be very strong, and most of his cards are playable. So also a good lesson for limited and sealed formats. FAI is a pretty good hero to build in sealed or draft, just because all of his cards are pretty much playable. So you can just throw together a pile of Draconic Ninja cards and it should deal pretty good damage. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.